Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Oner Podcast, the podcast where we break down and review films all in one big long take. I'm Austin Archer, and with me, as always, is my childhood next door neighbor and lifelong best friend,
Kramer, England.
I'm in a Holiday Inn Express
That's where you are.
in
Okay.
Price, Utah.
Price.
In Price, in Carbon County.
Yeah.
It is rural out here.
I gotta say, I don't even know if I've been to Price.
Everybody knows everybody. When I go to the store, everyone's just like talking in the aisles because it's just one of those towns where it's just like, yeah, if you live here, you know everyone who lives here. And I feel like the looks that I get at the store, they're like, who's that guy? Like,
who is this stranger in our
right.
town?
What's this guy doing here?
Yeah. Now let's see. Did you have to go there by driving past my house, kind of like by the wind?
I did after we saw this film.
Yes.
So
okay.
we saw this on Tuesday night together with a group of our friends from high school. We're
Yeah.
talking about Project Hail Mary from Lord and Miller, starring Ryan Gosling, shot by Greg Fraser.
Looked beautiful.
Lots of cool practical shots here. But we went but I drove back to Price after the film, and I drove past your house into the canyon and didn't get home till like 1:20 in the morning. But yeah.
Well, it was worth it. That was I honestly, it was a ton of fun doing that. We went to dinner before, and it was fun catching up with everybody. But the people you see a movie with can make it always magnifies the experience, right? It's always good to see it with, either your family or your friends. And I felt like this made it even better.
It can be, but also sometimes it can be.
That's why I say it magnifies, because if you all love it, then it's better. If you all hate it, then it's the worst thing ever.
If you're the only one who likes it and everyone else hates
that
it,
makes it even worse.
You feel this weird thing where you're like, what? Like, what's happening?
Were we watching the same movie?
Yeah, when I went and saw Superman with my brothers and dad, and my brother leaned over to me and said, "I'm going home," and got up and left, and my dad left with him, and I was like, "What?" What are you talking about?
That's right. Yep. Yep.
And then also so this movie, Project Hail Mary, the kid sitting next to me, who is not part of our group.
Yeah.
He was just like he looked like he was like 18, 19 years old. Yeah. He fell asleep. And
he did?
Yeah, and I was like listening to him like kind of sleep breathe. You know when you can tell like a breathing pattern is like, oh, that person's asleep. It wasn't like he was snoring. It was just like he's breathing like he's asleep.
Yeah. Yep.
And I was like, huh, weird. And then I talked to my brother Anthony about it, because he was like, oh, you and Kramer are going to do that on the show? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, I fell asleep. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah, and Mom did too. And I was like, what? And he goes, was I just tired or was it boring? And I was like, I don't see how you could see that film as boring or slow. But I was like, I think you must have been tired, but also like a teenage kid sitting next to me fell asleep. So I don't know.
Here's one of the things. First of all, chairs these days are super comfortable, and they lean
the theaters.
Back. Yes. Yeah. And where we were, they lean back. They even heat, right?
Yeah.
They heat your butt.
Yeah.
And it's really nice. But some people, if they get in the right spot, like, I mean, this will happen to Amy. This will happen to my wife all the time. She just like can't help it. She just falls asleep. And my parents are like that too. And if it's even like, I wouldn't say that this movie was ever boring, but there are times when it is slower. And I think that's just kind of like okay, I'm out, like for some people. Now, other people just might find it boring, but I don't know.
If you're not familiar, this is the edition of our show that is spoiler laden. We have a spoiler-free version of our discussion about this movie over on the channel. If you have not seen it yet and you do not want it to be spoiled, we are going to talk spoilers. So be warned.
Yes.
Be advised.
Spoiler warning.
But this movie, like my mom used the word slow, and I just was kind of like, I was like, first of all, you fell asleep, so. Because she's like, there was a lot of stuff that I felt was unanswered, and I was like, you were asleep. I was like,
you can't talk.
You were asleep. But also I was like, I don't know how this movie is shot out of a cannon from the opening sequence. It's like you start right in it.
You do.
You know?
It is an amazingly well-paced movie.
Yeah.
It like moves extremely efficiently and they get through things, but it doesn't feel rushed, which I was amazed by. But there are times when it gets more quiet and it kind of gets, I say slower, but it's not boring and it's not like slow, but he's in space and there's no sound in space and they just are very selective about their sounds,
Hmm.
right? Or he's thinking about things, and even though things are happening, it's not like super exciting things in the sense of like action. Um, but like there were parts that I could see that people, if you're pretty prone to falling asleep, that you could probably fall asleep. Even though I agree with you, like I was never bored by this movie.
Yeah, it's kind of like anytime there was like, oh, we need to show the passage of time
Yeah,
and the mundanity and the boredom that can happen in deep space by yourself on a
yeah,
large interstellar vessel wandering out in the cosmos. Lord and Miller would show it through montage, and
yeah.
there would often be like underscoring, and it would
Mhm.
the montage would be like quite lively because Ryan Gosling's character in this movie is like a very silly goose.
Yeah,
He's a
yeah,
silly guy, and so even when it's just like a montage of him by himself in the ship, it's not like Robert Pattinson being like really contemplative, like in a movie
yeah.
like High Life or something like that.
Right,
It's
right.
not like him looking off into the distance and contemplating the meaning of existence. It's him like fumbling with a spacesuit and like doing little
Yeah,
sketches and tripping over things and
yeah.
and
Trying to
playing with
trying to
yeah,
run around in zero gravity.
playing with the robot and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So I just was kind of like I never felt a sequence of this film like slow down and settle in. If anything, I would say that the movie could maybe use a little bit more of like slow it down here. Take your time with this a little bit
Mm.
more
Mhm.
because I felt like the movie had it was so narratively dense because
It
it's
was.
based off this book
Yeah.
and they're trying to get as much of the information in this book that is very dense with like science facts and
Yes.
the whole it's one of those it's like the Martian or Interstellar where
Yeah.
part of the fun of watching the movie is the inner it's it's science fiction and its best form is like there should be aspects of real science here and
Yeah.
stuff that it really makes sense and then we're gonna blend the fictional element and like what happens when you go into a black hole. We don't know that, so Christopher Nolan can
Yeah.
sort of invent
Yeah,
what
yeah.
might happen
Exactly.
inside of there. Or what would traveling through a wormhole look like? Well,
Mhm.
that's just a hypothetical thing that could exist. We don't actually know if
Right.
wormholes exist or not.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's where you have to bring in the fiction. But like because it's one of those movies where they're trying to keep it as rooted in real science as possible.
Yes.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of scientific jargon, and Brian Gosling plays a middle school science teacher, and I would just say, if anything, because the movie has so much to accomplish in its runtime and has so much information to deliver to the audience and has so many narrative beats it needs to hit, it's like it could have used some space to breathe a little
Yeah.
more, you
I
know?
I totally see that as well because it does go through a lot. I mean, it starts out quick. He explains what the plot of the movie is basically, or what the problem is, which there's this organism that is eating the sun or infecting all the suns in the galaxy, right?
Yeah.
They get through it real quick and then he figures out what it is and he has to figure out how to make more of it, and it really does go at a pretty fast pace. The way that they break it up though, I thought was pretty genius, because they have two stories running simultaneously, which is him on the ship. He wakes up. That's what the movie starts with, him waking up and like having that funny scene with the robot where he's getting out, and he's trying to he's
Yeah,
like
and when he
he's like,
points to
"Oh, go
he's like
away."
and when he points to, like, the one thing, he's like, "Why do we have, like, a nuclear spectrometer telescope?
Yeah.
Why do I know what that is? Am
Yeah.
I smart?"
Am I smart? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
But yeah,
Really, really
he
funny.
doesn't remember anything, but
No, he's
he's
been in a
kind of really
coma, and in
yeah,
a medically induced coma for
like
11 years, I think is what we decided,
many
right?
years, yeah.
Yeah, and, the two other people that were supposed to go with him have died, they died in transit, to, and so we're with him. I thought this was a really good way to do this as well, because like it's like Memento. Memento is backwards, because it helps you to relate with the character, because you don't know what happened. You don't know what happened the scene before, so you're learning it as he learned it. Right. That's why it's so good. So this is the same thing that it's not ripping off of Memento, but it's doing the same thing as like, you have no idea what's going on because he has no idea what's going on. And then you
Yeah, we
learn what
if
happens
you
as
haven't
he
read the
remembers
book,
it.
yeah, if
Yeah.
you haven't
Yeah.
read
Yeah.
the
If you
book,
haven't read the book.
yeah,
Yeah.
you have to learn it with him. And that's, like the one thing about the structure of this film is it's like I was actually glad I hadn't read the book because I
Yeah.
got
Me too.
to
Me too.
experience it.
Yeah.
But I said this in my first thoughts too. This is so rare. Usually if there's an adaptation of a popular book and I go see the movie first and I like the movie, I won't go read the book because I'm just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it's like Gone Girl. Like I love the movie Gone Girl,
Yeah.
and I know it was like a big hit book, but I was like, oh, I love this movie and I don't need anything
Yeah.
more than the
Yeah.
movie works great. I actually like at the end of this movie, I was like, I think I kind of want to go listen to the audiobook now.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I want more. I want to
Yeah.
know more,
I know. I want to know more too. And I guess I heard this I was listening to a podcast with Lord and Miller. Um, I mean, they were working on this for like 6 years, and
Mhm.
they knew that they were going to make this movie before it was even made into a book. So
Yeah.
like, which I mean that, and especially Andy Weir, who did the Martian, it's like he seemed to have the idea, and they're like, oh yeah, well, we'll make the movie as you're making the book.
Mhm.
So it's nice that they see everyone that I've talked to, which is not a ton of people, but everyone has loved the movie and also loved the book. Felt like, I mean, usually people like the book more just because you can get more, right? You just get more out of it. But no one seems to be super upset with what's come from
Yeah.
it. But I feel the same. I want to listen to the book because I want to kind of get a little more from the story, right? Oh, I kind of want to get those, even though I do love this. I probably won't read the book, honestly, but
Yeah.
I want to, so we'll see.
Yeah, but it is an interesting way for the audience to sort of piece together,
Yeah.
like how did our main character Grace come to
Yeah.
Ryland Grace
Yeah.
come to be on this interstellar vessel, and yeah, like you said early on, we learn about this astrophage that is kind of eating its way through the
Yes.
galaxy and through like across multiple galaxies, and it's eating all of these different stars, and they found one star that is immune to it, and they're trying their Project Hail Mary is basically, we're going to put all of our resources into building an interstellar vessel and flying to that star to figure out why that star is immune and see
Yes.
if we can find a cure to this thing.
Yeah.
And it's just like we may or may not discover the a cure at that star. We almost certainly like won't, but like that's
Yeah.
our best plan for
Yeah.
now. But again, like going back to this thing of like, was it slow or
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
pacing? This movie's being compared obviously to a lot of other films in its similar genre,
Yeah.
like The Martian, which is
Yeah.
an apt, and I'd say
Yeah.
it feels more tonally like The Martian than it does like Interstellar, because
It does.
I think Andy Weir's sensibility is just a little more comedic.
Yeah.
And
Drew Goddard wrote both of them.
yeah.
So yes, it does feel way more like The Martian than Interstellar. Yeah.
And Christopher Nolan's sensibility is just a little more
Yes.
serious, a little
Yes.
more self-serious.
Yep.
But again, going to this comparison to Interstellar, that's a film that like really takes its time with its first act of
Yeah.
like Christopher Nolan really establishes what Earth is like and the stakes of what's going on there with Coop and his family, and
Mhm.
setting up the threads of like this ghost story and Murph and the drones and NASA and all of this stuff, and like the dust storms and what's happened to like that all of
Mhm.
the kids are just being funneled into being farmers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this movie, like the opening shot is him waking up and it's like we are in space on the
Yeah.
spaceship already going, and we're just sort of piecing to I like the simultaneous.
Yeah.
I read
I
a few
loved
reviews
it.
from
I
people
loved
who
it.
were I read a few people being like, I didn't like the going back and forth, and it's like, well, the whole point of it is that that's how you learn about
Yeah.
this.
Well, and we talked after the movie.
Yeah.
I loved that every scene, every flashback scene of him related in some way to what was going to happen with him in space.
Yeah.
So it's like thematically, they're all the things that he's learning are also kind of what he's learning in space, right? So like there's one sequence where when he was on Earth, him and the one lady, I forgot her character's name. Eva
What's her name from
Sandra
Anatomy of a
Huller.
Fall? She was in
Yeah,
Anatomy of a Fall.
she's good.
Yeah,
She's a
she's
good
great.
actress.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's fantastic.
He's just talking with her, and that which man, so many things about this movie were so good. They're sitting there and they're talking, and then you see this like bright orange on their face, and this building has blown up in the background, and you don't hear it, but they see it, and then it hits them, right? The
Mhm.
sound comes, and anyway, it was awesome. But like they have this disaster that they have to figure out, and then on the spaceship, he runs into a disaster, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just like it was just interesting how they were able to make it all work
Mhm.
so naturally within the story. And I
Well,
thought it was a great way to structure the film and to just kind of like keep us figuring out what was going. Because if you were to play it linear, I don't think it would be as interesting, you know?
yeah, well, and similarly, it's like, yeah, so he wakes up on this spaceship. He doesn't know who he is.
Yeah.
He's wondering like, why I sound smart. Am I smart?
Yeah.
We go back and show that he's a teacher. So we're like, okay, so this guy's a science teacher, but
Yeah.
his kids are the ones who ask him. They're like, hey, what's I can't remember what the
Yeah. What is it's
of a
the
Trova line or something of a
Petrova line? Yeah, I
yeah.
think you're right. I think that's what it was.
What's a Vetrova line? And he has to explain to the kid
Petrova line. Yeah.
Petrova line, and he has to explain to the kids like, oh, okay, well, there's this line of like radiation from the sun to
Venus.
Venus that and he's like, and it looks like it's like decaying our sun just like a little bit. It's just like dimming its light a little bit, and you can tell that he's much more concerned about it than he's letting on to the kids because
Mhm.
he is
Yes,
scared of
he's
like
worried about it. Yeah.
and he doesn't want to freak the kids out, but you
Yeah.
can tell that it's a big, and then when but I like what we're flashing back to on the ship is he's like using his science brain to try to figure out where he is and stuff, and he's doing stuff like he's opening up maps and he's going like, okay, so there's the sun, okay, and here's where I am, and then he's like using math to be like, well, if I'm here and I'm this far from the sun, then that means that Earth is this far from where I am, and he's figuring out where he is, and he maps back to where Earth should be, and it's not there, and then he's like, well, what's going on here? And he's like, and then he's like, that's not my son. Okay, that's not our son.
Yeah.
While we're intercutting with him doing science to sort of piece together where he is in the cosmos, we're cutting back to you know Sandra Mueller coming to him
Yeah.
and recruiting him to study the astrophage, and he's just as much in the dark about what the
Yeah.
astrophage is and how it works, and
Yeah.
he's in a similar situation where he's like, I don't know what this is, I don't know anything about it, and all I can really do is just throw stuff at the wall and just test things and test hypotheses and
Yeah.
do equations, and we're doing both of those things where like he's on the spaceship using math to figure out where he is. He still doesn't know why he's there, but
Yeah.
he's using what he knows about science to kind of reverse engineer that. And meanwhile, on Earth, in that timeline, he's using all of his
Yeah.
knowledge to try to figure out the
Yep.
molecular makeup of
Yeah.
astrophage. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And he's as we said, like he is learning it as we are learning it, and it's a good way to kind of simultaneously tell these stories at the same time. And as you kind of talked about in the beginning, like this the first act of this movie is pretty quick.
yeah,
And I mean it really he and I loved the character Carl, played by Lionel Boyce, who's
hmm,
on The Bear, who's just an awesome actor. I think he's great.
yeah,
Um, he's like he's like his friend because the government comes to him. Like Ryan, oh man, there's so many things I want to say about this too.
yeah,
Ryan Gosling is his character arc was so well constructed in this movie too,
hmm,
because he starts out he wrote this paper, like he's teaching high school because he's so convicted in his beliefs, but no one believes them except for him.
Yeah.
And he's very alone. He's very alone. The Lord
He
Miller said this.
he sort of ostracized himself from the
Yes.
scientific
Yes.
community with this
Yes.
theory about maybe
Yeah.
there are life forms out there that don't have to be water-based, and
Yes.
also this theory that maybe the idea of the Goldilocks zone for habitable planets is something we're too hyper-focused on, and
Yes.
maybe, yeah.
Yes. And so he is super smart, but he's teaching high school because he's ostracized himself. And they read the paper, so they wanted to get him. He studies the astrophage and he realizes that it's made out of H2O, water, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen.
Yeah.
And he's like so mad because he was proven wrong, right? So he's kind of a loner. He doesn't have anybody with him. He doesn't have anybody who really, he doesn't have many friends and all that. And Lord Miller said in this podcast, they said, we wanted to tell the story about a guy who was alone on Earth and he had to go to space to find a friend.
Yeah.
And I thought that the way that they set up his character and his whole entire arc really was extremely genius how they did it, because he really doesn't like, he is very convicted in his beliefs, but he doesn't know, he's also wrong in his beliefs.
Yeah, and some of them, like, he might
Yeah.
be like, like, uh I think he's proven right about the Goldilocks theory.
Right.
Because they find like that the planet that like has the life on it, that has like the cure, that is in the orbit of that star, is, I think that, like, I think the book goes into that a little bit more, that like it's not in the gold. It's a planet that shouldn't be able to sustain life.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah,
it can't. So I think, he's like half right, but there is an elephant in the room here with this film that we talked a little bit about at the theater afterward, that you just have to sort of go with. And it is that because the character Ryland Grace is supposed to be this incredibly smart science nerd who has ostracized himself from the global scientific community and has no friends and can't keep a relationship together, there is this suspension of disbelief that comes with being like, and he looks like Ryan Gosling.
yeah.
Like, and he looks like the hottest guy in the world. And he's like, his hair is like, it was just kind of like funny to see Ryan Gosling be like, do I look like a nerd if I sort of muss my hair up like this? Like, buddy, your hair is perfectly coiffed right now.
Yeah.
And it is. But it's like, what if I wear my glasses like this around my chin? Do I look like a nerd then? It's like, no, you look awesome.
There's no way you can't look extremely handsome.
You look awesome, dude. Whatever you do, these cool t-shirts you're wearing, the way your hair is messed up, the glasses around your chin, you look dope, dude.
Yeah.
And so there is this thing where you just have to go, like, in the movie world,
everyone is good looking.
Oh, yeah. And this guy, Ryland Grace, has it's not his good looks that have ostracized him. It's his I guess because what Sandra Mueller says she's looking for is, she's like, we're looking for someone who thinks they're right when everyone else is wrong.
Yep.
Someone who's got a lot of confidence, so, and which is an interesting thing to be, but
well, and he does. I mean, he finds out that the astrophage is going to Venus, not Mercury, because that's where they can breed. And then they find out that they can use the astrophage as fuel to travel close to the speed of light. And
which is also, so he doesn't know that. So when he wakes up, I love kind of the way, then this is why I want to go back and read the book too, because there's more details like this that I'm interested in. But early on in the film, when he's trying to figure out where he is in space, once he sort of is able to map it on the computer and see how far he is from Earth, he does the math of like knowing what he knows about space travel, according to what he can remember. He calculates how long it would take to get where he is, going as fast as a spaceship NASA can build could go. And he calculates that he's been in stasis for like 113 years.
Yeah.
And so he's just like, it's sort of that thing of dealing with like, okay, so everyone I've ever met is dead. And who knows, like, I don't, and I still don't know what I'm doing up here. He hasn't remembered yet that the spaceship is powered by this astrophage and it moves fast enough that
Yeah.
that the trip only took like 11 years instead of 111
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, he does. And I mean, pretty quickly. So we find out that that's what the astrophage and that's what they're doing. They're all the most brilliant minds from around the world are on this like aircraft carrier.
Mhm.
And they're there because if they had this astrophage is an extremely unstable, if it can blow up, right? So
Mhm.
they don't want to kill anybody. So they're in the ocean. And I thought that was a fun little detail.
Yeah.
But then pretty quickly he finds out that he is he finds out kind of where he is, and then he sees another ship, right?
Yeah.
And
And we also, like we find out that like he's kind of remembering the idea,
yeah,
the concept of the mission, that okay, the stars were dying and so I was sent over here. So he's sort of like piecing this together. Yeah. And then he sees that
yeah,
he can see the Petrova line
yeah,
from the star that he's orbiting.
yes,
And he's looking at the Petrova line and there's like a dark thing covering it
yes,
up. And he's like, what's that? I always like in movies the arrival of an alien ship.
yeah, oh yeah,
I feel like it's a really cool
mhm,
thing to happen in space movies. And this is one of those things where like as fun as this sequence is of him and the Rocky ship sort of
yeah,
like first
yeah,
interacting,
yeah,
and they do have fun with this sequence. This is one of those moments where I'm like, I wish the movie could like slow down a beat here and
mhm.
take this
Yeah, yeah,
and
they could
step
have,
into the
yeah,
awe, because I feel like
they played it for comedy a
right.
little more, yeah,
And they do a lot of that in this film.
yeah, they do,
Ryland, the character Ryland Grace, kind of he's kind of like a "will that just happened" kind of guy
yeah,
about a lot of things, and
mhm,
I think that's just sort of his coping mechanism
yeah,
of dealing with,
yeah,
he just sort of
mhm,
he's like, "Oh, wow, aliens, okay." Instead
yeah,
of like I love the way that uh the arrival of the spaceships in the movie Arrival, or just
oh yeah, yeah,
these shots of like helicopters flying across these Montana,
yeah,
hills, and this thing, just this obelisk thing just
yep,
hovering in the air.
very
And
cool, yeah, yeah.
Rocky's ship is so cool. I kind of wish we could have like slowed down and dealt with it with a little more awe and
Yeah.
reverence.
Yep.
Uh,
I
and
could see that for
yeah,
sure.
it's also like a very intimidating looking
Yeah,
ship.
it's huge. It's
Yeah,
like at least twice as big as, if not 3 times as big as our interstellar spaceship.
yeah, yeah. And it's
Yeah.
also like, it's very alien. It's
Yeah.
very like different
Yeah.
from, and it's seemingly more advanced. Like it
Mhm.
seems to be able to do things that we can't do.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the whole kind of latter half of this film, is this relationship now between,
Yeah.
and I do like the early on. Like I feel like I felt this kind of awe when the first time he's like, so the alien spaceship starts trying to communicate with him. It starts
Yeah.
throwing these
Yeah,
canisters
that's yeah.
at him.
It just bounces
And
off the first time and he's like, "Oh, okay."
yeah, and he's like scared because he thinks it's a bomb or something.
Yeah.
And then it throws another one very softly, and it's like, "Hey, catch."
Yeah, and he's
But
like, "Oh, he thinks I'm stupid."
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then he catches it, and this also introduces a concept that sort of like runs through the rest of the film, where like he's trying to figure out how to open this canister, and he's like
Yeah.
righty tighty lefty loosey, and like he can't open it, and then he has some kind of revelation where he's like,
Yeah.
everything I think is wrong, like
Yeah.
aliens
Lefty
exist.
tighty, righty loosey, yeah.
Yeah, and so then he turns it the other way and it opens up, and and Rocky has made him like a little like model in there
Yeah.
to, and
Yeah.
it's basically just a map of like where he's from.
Or is it
Um,
him? Is it him first?
it
And
might
and
be.
is it a map? I think there's 2 pieces, right? Because he's like, "Is
Yeah,
this me?" Like, "Oh, they can
yeah,
see me."
yeah, and then there's a little
And then there's
map.
like a map. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I think that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and so he tries to like solder on his own little model of Earth and be like, "Okay, this is where I'm from," and he
Yeah.
sends it back over, and
Mhm.
then once Rocky's like, "Okay, seems like we're having a nice little like chat here,"
Yeah, yeah.
uh, the Rocky ship like extends this,
Yeah.
periscope over to be
Yeah.
like, "Here, I'll like
Like
walk over and
docking. Yeah.
yeah, let's dock and come over and say hi." But I did like the tension in this sequence of him
Yeah, yeah.
stepping into this tunnel and
It's
walking
good.
down, because I
Yeah.
was like, that's how it should feel appropriately like, this
Yeah,
is scary.
terrifying.
This is scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does. And I mean, it is played for fear, and the hand goes on and he's like, ah, and then the Rocky is freaked out, but then they pretty quickly realize that they can communicate with each other.
Yeah.
And I liked this sequence too. Again, they go through it very quickly, but I felt like this was really, really efficient storytelling because we didn't need to go through the tiny little details, and like basically because Ryan Gosling gets a computer, he records. They start off with very simple sounds, and he records them and he plays them back in Rocky's language, and they're able to eventually get to a point where they can talk to each other, and they have a translator that goes between them. But I thought it was really cool. I mean, it's kind of a fun sequence, but it's done quickly. Yeah. But I thought, okay, let's just I'm glad they just got through it, because I don't think you need to spend time on how long that probably took.
Yeah, like the entire film Arrival is all about just that process.
Yes,
it's just and it shows like actually how long that process would take. That it would take a very long time for an alien species to teach us its language, and and vice versa. Like that, it's just a very hard thing to do. But this movie has a lot of different sciencey things to get through, and that's only one of them. So it does get through it rather quickly because we need to get on with the film. But I love this relationship because essentially Rocky and Ryland are just two, like they're very similar members of their own species. They're just like scientists. They're just, and it is like who each species would send to this to go address this problem. We're so used to the Independence Day and Star Trek and Star Wars concept of alien encounters where like it's always a hostile species that's like out here looking for intergalactic warfare, which when you actually really think about it, it's like, does that make sense that a species that develops interstellar travel and that is going through the cosmos seeking for other signs of life would be doing it just to pick a fight? Like, it just doesn't seem like if you're a species that manages to evolve to that point, that your whole thing in your society would be like, who wants to fight? Like, I think by that point, if you manage to be cooperative enough as a global species to like have that kind of a project, you would be like, we come in peace. We're out here looking for friends.
I think I totally get why they make a lot of those movies, because they're very fun.
Yeah.
And they're very action packed, which I'm here for it. And as long as you can make something that's fun but I am surprised that they don't make more of these movies, because I'm with you. Like, I want to see the more interesting movies of what happens if we find life that is not trying to harm us. Like Arrival. Like, I love Arrival. I think
I love Arrival.
It's such an amazing movie. So Arrival and this are very similar in that sense, that like, what would we actually do? Like, how would we interact with these people? Now, Arrival's on a global scale. This is just Ryan Gosling figuring it out. But I love that idea too. So I don't know why they don't have more of those where like, how would we react if we found life and could communicate with life that is non-hostile? And I love that they did that, because immediately they're like, oh, we're both here for the same reason. Let's help each other. And they're both like, yeah, let's do it. Like, Rocky's a great character. First of all, he has no face. Yeah. He has no face, no features. And Lord and Miller were like, they originally, when they made Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, which is a great movie, they got a lot of pushback on the dad character because he didn't have any eyes. It was just his eyebrow, and they were like, they would push back, and they wanted to prove that you could still connect with a character who doesn't have eyes. It's more about their movement and how they are as characters. That like, that's how you can endear yourself to them. Right. So they did. And I think they did an amazing job, especially with that character. Well, they do the same thing with
Rocky's
this movie with Rocky.
He's also a practical puppet for a lot of the movie.
Yes, and it looks amazing.
Looks fantastic.
Yeah,
and
I love it.
So much more of this movie is practical in camera than I think people realize.
Yeah.
Like there's this amazing infrared shot in this film when Ryan Gosling is doing a spacewalk and he gets hit with the Petrova line and it goes into that like that that
Yeah.
red, pink,
Pink.
sparkly
Yeah.
dust.
Love
They
it.
shot this practically with
Oh, really?
with infrared lenses,
No
and they
way.
just filled the space with lights that would be picked up by the infrared lenses. And it's a
Ah.
shot that you would almost always you would just assume, oh, this is a CGI shot.
Yeah.
And Greg Fraser figured out how to do a lot of these space shots practically.
That's crazy.
With like, you know, like there's very, very little, like it's used very similar to the way that we just talked about in the Lord of the Rings films, where all of the CGI is complementary and like supplement. It's like, we're going to supplement the practical elements here and just sort of, it's like finishing touches and, you know, taking out little wires and things like that here and there.
Yes.
But, kudos to Greg Fraser for saying it matters, because here's the thing is, most audience members, when they're watching it, they don't know.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like we just talked about this with the Lord of the Rings movies. When you see Minas Tirith, that city, a lot of people watching it today, their brain would just automatically default to, oh, that's computer animated, because because there's no way that Peter Jackson and his design team built a city like that for the movie. What you don't consider is like, well, maybe they built a version of that city that's like the size of a room, and you know, like that, like they built, you know, and then they like mapped it into a mountainside, and it is actually a real thing you're looking at.
Yeah.
And whether you're aware of it or not, it does matter. Like
it does.
It
does.
You know.
Yeah, and it does make a difference. Like it really, especially when you do it right, and you know what you do. Obviously, Greg Fraser really knows what he's doing. Lord and Miller really know what they're doing, and it works really well. And Rocky was such a great character because he did feel so much more tangible. Like, and as Lord Miller said, like his movement gives so much of his character, like how he reacts, and like when he's excited and he's moving around, and you know, it like kind of tells you who this character is, even though he doesn't have a face. Like you can still, I fell in love with Rocky.
What I get from Rocky is that Rocky is a nerd in the same way that Grace is.
Yes.
And that's the thing, is like, they're not the warriors of their planets. They're not they're not like the jocks of their planets. They're like the science geeks.
Yeah.
And they're both, you know, they're both math geeks and science geeks, and the things that get them excited are science projects. There's a reason why Rocky was sent in the ship with his crewmates, you know.
Yes, which his crewmates also died.
They all died, and so they have that in common as well. I do want to talk a little bit more, just because there are a handful of names in the game right now who I think are worth really mentioning anytime they're behind the lens in a movie, and Greg Fraser is one of them. Greg Fraser is becoming a person that I'm like, anything he shoots, it's a big part of the movie to pay attention to, because he's so, and I think he's aware now too that like there's a lot of eyes on him and what he's doing. I think after the last few things that he did, he's aware that like, oh, there's an expectation, and he definitely made some choices here that I was really aware of. Like, I really liked how, I don't know if you clocked this, the aspect ratio shift every time we would go to a flashback, and the way that he would do this thing where the light would bleed into the black bars of the aspect ratio.
Nice.
So during the flashbacks, there was this thing where like light.
That's right. I did see that.
Yeah, it would sort of stream into the black bars, and I thought it was sort of an interesting way of visually conveying memory. And
I did like. You know, it's fun. Christopher Nolan, he's not the first one to do this, but The Dark Knight changes aspect ratio because of the IMAX cameras and the normal cameras that they were filming with, right?
Right.
And I think a lot of people use it now to, I mean, Wes Anderson did it a ton in Grand Budapest. He does it a ton now, right? Because it kind of puts you in different places, puts you in different scenarios. And I did notice that as well. And I thought it was pretty brilliant that they decided to do that, because some people won't do that. They'll just keep the same aspect ratio, which is fine, but it's a great little thing. It's a little touch that they can do to put you in those different spaces. Yeah. I thought it was interesting to do those different aspect ratios. I actually really want to see this in IMAX.
Me too.
Because I really would like to see how it looks in IMAX.
One thing about our theater experience that I was a little underwhelmed by is I felt like it was like kind of quiet. I don't know if you felt that way.
It was a little quiet, and I felt it was a little dark.
It was yeah, it felt like the projector was like not super
Yes.
sharp, and it felt like the projector like wasn't even really fitting the screen very well.
Yes,
And,
I felt the
and
same.
it was
I
just
was
weird.
disappointed. I was a
I was
little
just kind of
disappointed.
like, it's a little quiet in here, and like the
Yeah.
image from the projector is like not really filling the screen.
Yes.
And since
Yes.
so I would like to see it on a yeah on an iMac.
Yeah.
I would I've seen several people talk about seeing the 70 millimeter print in IMAX,
Oh,
and I'm like,
wow.
that would be pretty cool.
That'd be pretty amazing. Yeah.
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 Mhm.
Yeah, so it would be great to see that. But the really great choices all around. And I guess Greg Fraser said, and the VFX supervisor told Lord and Miller, this is the hardest movie we have ever filmed because
Wow.
of all the different elements that they had and how they had to they're in space and how anyway, which I thought was like, and they said, and we just came from filming Dune 1 and 2. And it's like, oh man, wow, that's a lot.
Well, and here's the thing is all of this stuff we're talking about, doing things practically when you could just do
Yes.
them with
Yes.
CGI. There's something about opting for the hard way
Yes.
that like we just talked about this with the Lord of the Rings movies, that maybe it's a little simpler production wise to make the Hobbit trilogy and do so much more in CGI and just shoot so much more in like one soundstage and just be like, we're just going to turn this soundstage into a ton of different locations with green screen. And that way
Yeah.
we be jumping around to different locations every day. Maybe it simplifies the process, but it, but the, like the results are undeniable.
No.
The,
Yes. Yes.
you can't argue with like the fact that it's just like, the results are what
Yeah.
they are when you do things the hard way. When you
Yeah.
do, and every effect that's impressive in the Lord of the Rings trilogy is an effect that they did the hard way.
Yes.
They just did
Yes.
things with, and this movie is that like
Yeah.
Greg Fraser and his team were kind of committed to being like, okay, cool. What's the like?
Mhm.
How do we actually really do it though?
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah, and I might have said this before, but I love this quote by Christopher Nolan because someone said, why don't you film more CGI? I mean, it would be so much easier. And he said, easier for who? Easier for me, yes, but not easier for the VFX artists. Like
Yeah.
they have to put in so much work. Like
Mm,
just because it's easier for me, why would I want to do that? Like he's like,
yeah.
I would rather have control. And I was like, that's so true. We need to stop saying that it's easier. Like
Yeah.
it's easier for someone,
Yeah.
and I get sometimes it's safer. Like
Yeah.
I get some of those practical reasons why, like, oh yeah, okay. Sometimes you want it,
Hmm.
you can't film it, you can't make something that's
Right.
sometimes you can make those, but if you can make it, just make it.
Yeah.
Like yeah, it's easier for you, but it's going to look better in the long run. Like make your job a little harder and make the film better. And that's what Lord and Miller did with this movie. Like I think it paid off so much in this movie by doing all the practical effects that they did.
I'm about to, and I'm going to be a little indulgent here, but I'm about
Okay.
to release an album in like a couple months here
Yeah.
of music that's going to be my first album I've ever done where almost all the instruments are played live, are
Oh,
like
nice.
I've
Nice.
always just out of convenience. We live in an era where like
Yes.
digital audio works, like you can do MIDI drums and MIDI keys and piano and MIDI
Mhm.
guitar sounds and MIDI bass and all these different things just on like one MIDI keyboard, and you can sort of program a
Yeah.
lot of things
Yeah.
digitally and make them sound good enough and make them sound, to most people they can't tell the difference. And
Right.
there's still musicianship involved in that. There's composing and arranging and all of this
Right.
stuff.
Right.
But the reason why I haven't done live practical instruments before is it's expensive, and
Yeah.
it takes a lot longer, and I
Yeah.
have to hire session musicians for every song, and I have to
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
work around their schedules, and it just takes a lot longer. And this album has taken about 2 years to put together because of that reason. But
Yeah.
whenever I listen to it, it's so satisfying knowing that like we didn't take any shortcuts on any of
Right.
these songs. We did all
Right.
of them the hard way.
Yeah.
And I think that like again, I feel like the results are kind of undeniable. That to me, it's like this is better than anything
Yeah.
I've ever put out because
Nice.
we did it the hard way.
Yeah.
And
And if you've got the money, like Hollywood studios,
yeah,
you've got the money. If there's no serious danger involved, like just do it practically. Like you can make it look great.
Yeah.
And they did with this one. So
Speaking of doing it the hard way, in these movies, in this genre of film,
yeah.
nothing can ever happen smoothly. Like
No.
it can't just be that Grace and Rocky meet up and they make a great team and they solve the problem and everything's fixed. A big staple of like space adventure, deep interstellar movies is like Murphy's, like everything,
Everything needs to go wrong.
everything needs to go wrong. Like you lose a crucial engine and you got to figure out how to deal with that. Even like Apollo 13, which really happened. How the whole story of that movie is that they have to like rebuild the craft from pieces on board the craft. And the people down at Mission Control at NASA have to like tell them how to rebuild stuff.
Well, they have to make a filter. I just made a promo for this movie, by the way. It's playing on BYU TV, so I got to watch it and I got to make
cool.
Which was awesome. It was so good. I loved watching it. It's such a great movie.
So good.
Yeah, they have to make a filter because they have two. It's so funny too, because they're like, well, that's the government for you. They have two separate filters for two of the different ships, and they have to fit a square filter into a round filter. And so they have to, they do all this. Sorry, cut you off, but it's really good.
But that's what's going on here too, is Rocky and we do like a montage of like developing their friendship. Rocky basically moves into Grace's ship and refuses to leave.
Shows up. He's like, hey, I'm here. I love the voice, which I love how they came up with the voice, and they had Meryl Streep. They had her as in a little cameo, which was great.
Amaze.
Yeah, amaze. It's so great. Yeah.
And Rocky moves in and Grace doesn't really know how to explain to him like boundaries and being like, hey man, can you go back to your ship for a while? And Grace is doing these like video logs, just talking about his relationship with Rocky and talking about how Rocky has like incredible hearing. There's really one funny scene where he's like, he can hear everything. And Rocky's like, well, who are you talking to? And he's like, there's no way you can hear this. And he's like, yeah, I can.
Yes, I can. And he's like, yes, I can.
But he's just great. Like, I need a break. Like I need it, but there's all this cute stuff. Like when Rocky goes to sleep, he needs Grace to watch him because his species basically is like paralyzed when they sleep and they can't wake up if there's like if there's a problem, if there's a predator, if there's and so they have evolved to watch each other sleep, and so that they can like it's a survival mechanism. And so like Grace tries to get some video logs done while Rocky's sleeping and stuff like that, so that that's his only time that he can kind of be by himself. But it's also this kind of sweet thing that they do because Rocky also watches Grace when he sleeps. And Rocky, like, he doesn't feel like, he's anxious. He doesn't feel comfortable letting Grace sleep without him watching. He's like, no, I gotta like make sure you're okay, bud. You know? And I think that aspect of Rocky's personality is really endearing too, that he's like this anxious little guy.
It's interesting. It was a good, I loved their relationship, and Rocky is clearly smarter than Grace. He's clearly smarter than Ryan Gosling,
he's from a more technologically advanced species.
Which is it's cool too. And let's see what I'm trying to remember, because they go back and forth and they're figuring out. And originally, earlier on in the film, it's clear that Ryan Gosling is not the one who's going to space. There's 3 astronauts that are going, and he's like, wow, I can't.
And there's a backup team as well.
Yes. Yeah. Like, I can't believe you guys could do that. Like I don't have that brave gene that, and the captain is like,
it's a one-way mission. It's explained like they're not
going
coming
to die.
Home.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They are going to this planet. They're going to send probes back, and they are going to die. Out in space. That's just how it is. But they've all volunteered to do it to save the world, because the world's going to die in like 30 years. They'll lose like half the population or something.
And they can only make enough exactly. And basically the world's gonna it's gonna massively cool. And then they're going to basically fall into global wars and starvation, and eventually everyone's going to die. But they can only make enough astrophage to get to this star that's immune to this infection. and so these scientists are basically like, yeah, we're going to go out there, figure out what it is, send our findings back, and then die out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're totally fine with it. But he continually, they keep showing these scenes where he's like, I can't do that. I couldn't do that. Right. And the captain of the ship says, well, there's not a brave gene. It's just you have to find someone to be brave for. Right. Which I was like, oh, that's foreshadowing.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a great line too. And I loved it because it's very clearly foreshadowing. They're not trying to hide it. But I was like, okay, how is this going to fit into the story? So I was kind of like, I kept thinking about that. And I mean, it ultimately turns out to be Rocky, which we'll get to, but
that's an interesting thing too, because it's like the movie tells us there are these two teams of three. There's the team of three that's going to go, and then there's a backup team of three, and neither one of them involve Ryan Gosling. But we know as the audience that he makes it onto the team.
Yes.
And so we're waiting the whole movie to go like, well, what happens that makes him the guy?
Well, and I love, he creates a relationship with Eva, right? Or Sandra Hüller.
Mm-hmm.
And there seems to be some sort of attraction there, but they never really go into it. But I thought it was such a great relationship because it also, he's kind of trying to connect with her while he's connecting with Rocky in space, right? So there was kind of that parallel.
Well, and she also seems like a kind of person who sort of like isolates herself, and
mm-hmm. She doesn't express herself, and she has to do all these horrible things to keep, because she's like, we're on the brink of war, like countries are going to go against each other unless we can figure something out, and which is understandable. So she has to basically be the end justifies the means, so she has to do all these horrible things. So I love that they have that relationship, and it was played so well between the two actors. But then that explosion happens, and the explosion kills the backup team,
kills both the scientists.
Yes,
both the science officers are playing around with astrophage in this.
Yes, and it kills one of the scientists that was going to go, and it kills the three backups. I think, right? I think that's what it was, and so that's this huge thing, and they ask, Ryan, does this come up at this point?
Yeah, she basically just looks at him because like he's like he's like, well, who are you gonna find? Who are you gonna find to replace him? And she's just looking at him like, I mean, it's obviously you. And
she's like, you've been at every meeting, you know everything, you're the leading astrophage scientist.
Yeah, and he's telling them, like, he's at this table where he's telling the team, the captain and the engineer, he's like, you guys, I'm not an astronaut.
Like, I'm not an astronaut.
I put the not in astronaut, like and he's trying to explain to them, like, guys, I'm physically incapable. And I, as a person with panic disorder, I related to this so much. Nice. This whole sequence actually made me so anxious because I was like,
interesting.
If I actually get this concept of, if people like this came to me and said, the fate of the world depends on you getting in this interstellar ship and going into deep space, I'd be like, well, then the world's going to end. I can't do it. Like, I can barely get in an airplane. There are certain things that I'm just like, I'll never go scuba diving. I'll never be in like a submarine. I'll never be like, I'll never go to submarine.
I'm never going to submarine.
It's like, I'll never go to space. I'm just not going to do these things because my body I just don't think my body could handle it. And I genuinely feel like if people came to me and said the fate of the entire world is in your hands, I'd be like, I'm so sorry. You have to find someone else or we're all cooked.
And that's how he is. Cause he's like, can I have some time to think about it? She says, you have 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And then he comes back apparently after 3 hours. He's like, I'm so sorry. I just cannot do it. And I felt Ryan Gosling plays it so well because you can tell that he feels bad.
Yeah.
He's like, I just can't do it. And the whole movie they've been saying, like, he's been saying, I'm not a hero. Like, I can't believe you guys could do this. Like, thank goodness for you guys because I couldn't do it. Right. And then he says, he's like, I'm so sorry. I just cannot do this. And Eva forces him. She says, this really wasn't a question. You are going. Like, it's not. And then these scientists come in and he runs away and she has to make that horrible decision, right? To
against his will.
Yes. But it's like the fate of all the worlds is really dependent on this.
This was a really, really cool reveal,
Oh, it
and
was awesome.
especially having not read the book. Obviously, if you
Yeah.
read the book, no, but this was a really cool reveal because it's one of those reveals that recontextualizes the rest of the movie. That
Yeah.
you're like, oh, he's been doing actually like such an admirable job navigating
Yeah.
this really difficult mission,
Yeah.
from waking up by himself, in deep, deep, deep space with his only two crewmates dead,
Yeah.
and figuring out where he is, sort of remembering the vague details of the mission, meeting Rocky, working really hard to like figure out how to find a solution. He's like being incredibly brave and
Yes.
incredibly like resourceful. And we assume that this is a mission that he volunteered for at some point
Yes.
the whole time, and to recontextualize it and go, he is here against his will.
Yeah.
He was so paralyzed with fear about the idea of doing this that he like begged them not to do this to him,
Yes.
and they sent him here against his will. And I think what, as messed up and as dark as that is, I think
Yeah.
what this makes the movie about, it ultimately becomes a movie about how not only is it a movie about cooperation
Yeah.
between
Friendship and yeah.
between different cultures and friendship
Mhm.
and all of these things. It's also it's and the movie about like how our greatest strength as a species is our ability to
Yeah.
collaborate, not our
Yeah.
ability to fight.
Right.
And
Right.
it's also a movie about how like you are capable of more than you think you are.
Yes.
And
Yes. I
that
thought that was
yeah.
it was done amazingly well. And also during this time, he has conversations with Rocky. They talk about their crew who died, their other crewmates who died. And then he does reveal to Rocky, he's like, "Listen, this is a one-way trip. Like I'm going to die."
Mhm.
And Rocky is like really upset by that.
Mhm.
He's like, "No, no, Grace no die," right? And like
Yeah.
it
Grace go
like
home.
yeah, and they have a really great scene, and he's like Ryan Gosling before we found this out, he's like, "I have accepted this. I'm just going to die. Like that's just how it goes." And then we find out that Rocky is able to give him some more astrophage so that he can get home, and Ryan Gosling just breaks down, right? I
That
thought
I,
this was a great tonal balance of the drama and the comedy because he starts breaking down, he starts crying, and he's so grateful that Rocky would do that for him. And then he's like, "But I thought you said you accepted it." He's like, "That's all fake." Like
he's like, I was lying about all
it was
that.
so funny. Such a great it fits so
this
well. They pulled it off
this
perfectly.
scene made me cry.
Oh, totally.
I cried
Totally.
at that scene. I thought it was really beautiful. And Rocky was like, "I have enough to send you home. I'm going to
Yeah.
give you some of mine, and I'm going to send you home."
Yeah, he's like, "It'll
And
take me longer, a few years
yeah,
longer to get to my home."
and
So,
Gosling breaking down at that, like that, I thought it
yeah,
was so beautiful,
it was very
and his
beautiful. Yeah.
performance was really great. Yeah, it's a nice balance there.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, um, and
And is that when he hugs him? I think he hugs
that's
him.
when he hugs him.
Yeah, and he hugs the ball that he's
"What are
in.
we doing? What are we doing?" And he's like, "This is just something we do in my culture." He's like, "Just lean into me." And then so he sort of like puts his head
Yeah.
against the ball, like into Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "How do we know when it's done?" He's like, "You just feel it." And then he's like, "Is
Is
it
it
done
done?
now?" And he's like, "No."
It was
Yeah.
great. It was great. I loved that. But we find out he has gone against his will.
Mhm.
And then this is probably my biggest criticism of the film. Because they find out that like we can't go, they're studying the planet, and they're like, we have to get down there to figure out what's going on, because somehow they got a sample, right? And they realize that like
There's life.
there's life on this planet,
There's
and it
bacteria and
it
yeah.
is a predator to astrophage,
Mhm.
and that's what kills the astrophage. So they need to get a sample of it so they can send it back to their planets or take it back with them to their planets. And this is the biggest criticism I have of the film, is because went almost too fast. I
Yeah.
didn't know what they were doing. I got the idea. They're fishing. They're going to send a probe down that's connected to their ship. They're going to gather a ton of samples, and they're going to bring it back up. But like, I didn't get how dangerous it was. The
Mhm.
stakes weren't made as clear, and maybe on the second viewing it'll be better because I feel like there was so much coming at me that like I
Yeah.
couldn't get it. So
Yeah.
maybe on the second time viewing it will be fine. And this really wasn't the biggest deal, but I I didn't feel as tense as I could have because I didn't really know exactly what they were doing and like how dangerous it was, how close that they were getting, because they could fall into orbit and they could fall into the atmosphere and they would get destroyed.
And they do set that up that it's like the gravity of this planet would
Yes.
crush the ship, so we've got to stay at a.
Yeah.
And what they also set up is that like that Grace is not a great pilot. He's not a pilot at all.
He's not a pilot.
And he's got to learn how to fly this spaceship well enough to like keep them from falling into the atmosphere of this planet.
Yeah.
And this is kind of the big like sequence of this film, you know, like if there are several of these in Interstellar, there's like the gravity
tidal wave,
the tidal wave planet, but the big one is like the docking sequence, you know, where he's
so good.
Yeah,
I just watched that a couple weeks ago with my
Come on, Tars.
So
Come
good.
on, Tars.
Yeah. It's like the song dun, dun, dun. Anyway, it's so good. So good.
Yeah. No, it's necessary.
But yeah.
It's
exactly.
But this is that sequence where it's like everything's falling apart, and the big emotional thing that happens here is at the end of this sequence, they're trying to get their gravity going, and the ship is spinning out of control, which also reminded me of another Gosling space movie, First Man. I don't even know if you remember the sequence of First Man where Neil Armstrong he starts spinning. That sequence is crazy, by the way. That when you just see Earth just going like this through the it's crazy. But Grace gets like his face smashed into a control panel, and he basically passes out from the G-forces. And then Rocky basically like sacrifices himself. He comes out of his little bubble to pull Grace into, you know, to an enclosure and
to the med bot.
Yeah, to the med,
so that he can get healed. But
and then also Rocky stabilizes the ship's gravity and gets them out of the orbit and everything. But in that process, Rocky like almost kills himself.
And there's a hole in the ship and it's leaking astrophage, so they're going. But Rocky saves the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also they call the planet Adrian because Rocky thought that was a fun little reference that they had. But Rocky, like, and it's a pretty like the sounds that Rocky makes, you hear him with his native language, right? And it's like it's pretty like, it's really high pitched, and it really like it hurts, right? Like you could tell that it's really hurting Rocky. Anyway, Rocky gets back into his side of the ship, but he's hurt really bad. So, but I guess this is when they realize that the planet has life on it and it is a predator to astrophage, because he tells that to Rocky when he gets up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so he figures it out. They're all happy. And they realize that they have enough that they can take it to both of their planets. And this also, again, unfortunately, I guess really in the third act of this movie is kind of where the biggest problems are.
Yeah, because it does feel like we're like coming to a natural ending point, and then we do like a whole other thing.
Yes. And this is where it's funny. Lord and Miller like to do this kind of like almost like 5-act structure thing where you think the movie is over. Like, again, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatball, there's a couple times where I think the movie's going to end, and then they make a shift.
Mm-hmm.
And it's totally fine. It's not bad. But this one, you think they're going, and I felt this was a little rushed because he's going home, and on his way home, he realizes that
also they have like a very emotional goodbye. Like their initial goodbye, I was like, oh geez, it was so good. Sweet. Yeah,
it was very sweet, very sweet, very cute.
Yeah.
And then he realizes that the life on the planet has evolved to leak out of the containers that they had, and he realizes that Rocky is going to be killed by the astrophage. And
the containers are made out of like xenite or something.
Which his whole ship is made out of.
Rocky's whole ship is made out of that, and
a gas that's been solidified, right?
So he's like, Rocky's not going to make it home. And he's like, unless I go help him.
And he has a choice to go home or to go save Rocky. Which again, I felt like there wasn't enough time to really. I was like, well, he's just going to go get to Rocky. So like, it wasn't much of a huge choice, but. Not the worst.
But I do like this that we have just learned that like he was not there voluntarily, and like he didn't think of himself as being brave enough to do hard things,
and he's found somebody to be brave for. Right?
And so he sends the probes back to Earth to like say, hey, here's everything you need. Best of luck. I'm gonna go help my friend. And he flies out to go rescue Rocky, and we sort of do have to, like, I think it's smart to sort of step on the gas and like get to the end of the film,
Yeah.
because it's similar to what we were talking about of the, like the end of the Return of the King, where it's like if you do the whole thing where the orcs show up in the Shire, and you do like, oh no, it's still going, it's like it's just too much. And
Yeah.
I think with this, like, we've already sort of resolved the whole thing of like they said their emotional goodbye. Oh no, I got to go help my friend. You do have to kind of go like, okay, let's get through it. Let's get
You
through
do.
it.
You do.
And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really do like this ending sequence of like Eva like watching the videos and getting
Yes.
to see Rocky and getting to
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
and you know, and seeing what Earth looks like, and the hope. It kind of reminded me of the end of the movie Sunshine, where you
Yeah.
sort of get these flashes of like the people on Earth, that it's like,
Yes.
okay, maybe
Yeah.
there's hope here. And then I really liked the sequence on Rocky's planet.
Yes. Because he gets to Rocky, and Rocky, we were not sure if he's dead, and he shows up, and it's very quick. And then we see Ryan Gosling like in this house. We're like, where the heck is he? And Rocky has made like a habitat for him. He's which is almost like a zoo animal, but he's not really. They do say like, hey, we've made something so that you can get home. And he's like, oh, we'll just take your time on it, you know, or whatever. And Rocky's like, yeah, we'll take all the time you want. So they want him to stay. You know, but it's a cool little sequence. Like he's in this habitat where there's an ocean and there's a beach and a cool little house, and he becomes a teacher again.
He's
Like he's
teaching
all these
little rock
Rocky
aliens, and
yeah,
it's really
what's their
cute.
planet called again? It's like
I want to say, I was gonna say Eden, but that can't
it's
be
like
it.
Enid. Oh, wait. Eridani or so? No.
Oh yeah, Iridians.
Iridian. Yes.
Arid, and Arid is the planet. Arid.
Yes. That's what it is. Yeah.
Now,
he's all these little Iridians.
This is something from the book that I read online that they do not have in the movie, that I was like, okay. And again, this is like, I think it's smart of Lord and Miller to go like, let's just get through to the end of the film.
Yeah.
Because we don't, but apparently like, Grace stays on Arid for a long time in the book, and because Arid doesn't have food for him, they don't have like human food. What they do is that they clone his own cells, and they make meat out of burgers. They make him burgers out of his own cloned meat. So he's eating burgers of himself.
What?
Yeah, of
that
like
is so weird.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that's like, I don't think the movie needed that. I don't.
Good. Yeah, they could figure out something.
Yeah,
they could figure out something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's the end of the movie, and it was. I thought it was good.
Yeah,
it's a great film. Lord and Miller still have not made a bad movie. They've not directed a bad movie, and most of the movies that they produced are done like. They're extremely talented filmmakers. Like they really know what they're doing. And I think this is an awesome movie. I think it could be up for a lot of awards. I'm a little afraid it's going to get forgotten.
100%.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. Yep.
If you know, you know.
If you know, you know.
Yeah.
That was awesome. I love that. Oh, and bump my fist, right? Or
fist my bump, which is something completely different.
That was so funny.
Fist my bump.
Yeah, fist my bump.
Yeah.
So it was
very
great.
Good.
Love the movie. A lot of fun.
Yeah, loved it. Let's get into scores. We give scores on this channel: technical rating, score for the ending, score for rewatchability, score for cultural impact and significance, and a score for our subjective feelings. Kramer, what is your technical rating for Project Hail Mary?
I gave it a 9. I think I love the practical effects. It looks beautiful. Acting is amazing. There's really only like 4 or 5 actors in this movie, right? And but there's a lot of people in the background, but the ones who do it really well.
Mm-hmm.
And even Rocky, like you really fall in love with this character that is an alien that doesn't have a face. And the screenplay is really smart. Lord and Miller do a really good job of pacing. As we just talked about, there's a couple things that it's maybe a little too long, right? And the ending is feels a little bit rushed, but not enough to really hurt the movie. That's more of a nitpick.
Yeah, I gave it a 9 as well. I could even be convinced to bump it up to a 9.5 just because I'm so impressed with how the team opted to go the hard route for so many things. And I'm really just grateful to them for doing it the way that they did it. And it all just, for a movie that's this dense with story and information and science and all this stuff, I think it's balanced really well and paced really well, acted
Mhm.
really well. Yeah, I'd say like where it loses like half a point or a point from me is just like I wish it actually had time to slow down a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I also wish that like maybe it had a little time to lean into a little bit more of those Christopher Nolan tones of like it's okay to
Mhm.
like let some of this stuff just be emotional.
Mhm.
But I do think that it does have I feel like the thing about Grace is I think that his jokiness comes off as sincere. Like it comes off as
Yeah,
like a
it does,
and
yeah.
even in those moments where he's like, experiencing something and Rocky goes like, "What happening?" And he's like, "I'm having a moment."
Mhm.
And it's like that it feels like a sincere thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I don't know. I really, really liked it. How
Yeah.
about the ending for you?
The ending I gave an 8, and maybe I should give it like an 8.5, but those kind of with the second ending that it had, it's just a little quick, as we just talked about, but still really well executed in it. And I do love that it works out, right? And that
Yeah.
I love how it did end altogether.
Yeah, I give it a 9.5, the ending. For me,
Nice.
it was very satisfying. It was
Nice.
very like I just when the credits rolled, I think I was the only one in our group that started clapping and no one else clapped. And I was like, all right. I was like, okay.
I thought
You
did we
know,
clap? I thought I clapped after
I
that.
did. I was
Yeah.
I was
Yeah,
very
yeah.
like, well done, lads.
Yeah, yeah.
Well
Yeah.
done, everybody. That was very good.
Yeah.
And I really I feel like everything from the revelation that he didn't choose to be there on is to me like
Yeah.
the ending block. And I think it's
Yeah.
all handled so well. The way that it recontextualizes everything that you've seen up to that point, it
Yeah.
really left me like wanting more in a good way. I want
Yeah.
to watch it again in a good way. I want to listen to the audiobook because that's how much I enjoyed it. So yeah, I was very satisfied by the end of this
Yeah.
film. How about rewatchability?
Rewatchability, I gave an 8.5. I do want to rewatch this movie, and I think you could. The length is really the biggest thing because it's just a little too long. But honestly, it's not really like too long, but it felt a little overly long. But I want to rewatch this movie.
Yeah. I gave it a 9. I think I just like this genre, and I think
Yeah,
this is
it's
one
fun.
that I'm gonna enjoy watching
Yep.
for a long time. How about cultural impact?
Cultural impact, I gave an 8. This movie's doing really well, and I think it will be one of the space opera type movies that will stand the test of time. So it could even be more. Like I feel like I'm being conservative because it could possibly be a 9, but we'll see how it goes, and I think it will get just better with age. So
Yeah, I gave it a 9 for cultural impact, and I think like like what I'm thinking right now is I said this in my first thoughts that like I think this movie, if anything, the people who are having just like a mediocre experience with it, I think it's being hurt by the amount of hype that it has. And I
yes,
think it's being hurt by the comparisons to other films.
yes,
And I think that like once people can see it without the hype and without thinking that it's supposed to be more like Interstellar or more like The Martian and just watch it for, I think it's going to like do better with successive viewings, and I think it's going to age well. And if I like people need to remember that Interstellar had like a kind of tepid
it did.
critical reception when it first
Yes,
came out, and it's now considered not only one of Christopher Nolan's best films, but it's considered like one of the greatest like sci-fi films of all time. And when it first came out, people didn't really know how to feel about it. They didn't know
yeah,
how to feel about the last thing and the Tesseract and the
yeah,
reveal. Like people
yeah.
kind of thought that was a little hokey, and now people love that movie.
I know.
And I
I
think
I
this
love that they went there.
yeah,
Yeah,
and I think this movie's me too. I love that Interstellar goes there. I love how weird it gets.
yeah, me too.
And I think this movie's gonna enjoy. I think people are gonna
Yeah,
enjoy it more and more as time goes on. Last night I watched a movie that sort of it's very different, but it sort of reminded me of this same thing of like a movie that I think suffered by comparison when it was released. The Furiosa was on TV last night in my hotel, and
ah,
I hadn't seen that since the theater. And I think that what happened with that film is Mad Max Fury Road is such a like perfect movie
yes,
that everyone was like, well, this better be like Mad Max Fury Road.
yeah,
And
it's
it's a very different film, just
yeah,
structurally. And
Yeah.
in very intentional ways, George Miller's
Yeah.
doing a different thing that he and by the way, if you've ever watched all of those movies, they're all different. Like there are certain things that happen in every Mad Max movie. Every Mad Max movie has a long action sequence on a straightaway in the desert that is like 15 minutes long, at least. They all have that, but then like the structure of those films and everyone has its own thing going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Furiosa is easily the second best film in the Mad Max canon, easily.
That's funny.
Like Mad Max Fury Road is obviously the best one, and then
It's pretty amazing.
Furiosa is easily the second best one. And watching it last night, like the sequence on the road with like the biker gang that attacks their war rig is insane. I was watching it, I was like, this movie's awesome. Like it's just like I think that everyone was just like, oh, it's not as good as Mad Max Fury Road.
Had so much to live up to, it never could have.
Yeah.
And he wasn't, you gotta appreciate he was not trying to live up to it. He was trying to do something else. I would like to rewatch that. Yeah. I love Chris Hemsworth. He's awesome in that movie.
So good.
I love how crazy he is. And anyway, I'd give it a second chance. But yes, by comparison, it's a hard thing.
Yeah. But then I was like watching it last night and I was like, oh yeah, I think this movie just sort of like suffered from like expectations and comparison. Yeah. And if you actually just watch it on its own merits, it's like, this movie's awesome. This movie is so cool. Yeah. And I think that's how this movie will age. Yeah. Your subjective score.
Subjective score is a 9. Really, really great movie. Everything worked out. Everything was done top notch with everybody, in all aspects of this movie is done really, really well.
That's exactly where I'm at. 9. Really great film. Nice. I can see that probably, maybe with time, I'll like it even more.
Yeah.
Let us know what you thought of Project Hail Mary in the comments. Like, share, comment, subscribe if you want to watch along with the show. So we were talking about how when Interstellar first came out, it got this sort of tepid, mixed critical response. Yes. And then with time, that movie aged really well. That's a thing that happens with a lot of Christopher Nolan movies. Christopher Nolan makes films that like sometimes he makes films that are like hard to love on the first watch because there's so much going on. He's almost intentionally keeping the audience at an arm's length where it's like, you're only going to be able to get so much of this on the first watch. And there are deeper layers to this that you're only going to be able to appreciate more and more later on. Yeah. And there's no movie in the Christopher Nolan pantheon that is more that than Tenet. And that is what we're watching next week. A movie that is almost impossible to love the first time you watch it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And is a movie that like can't really be really loved and really understood until you've seen it like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna rewatch Tenet and let you know how we feel about it on a revisit. So
I'm excited.
If you'd like to revisit Tenet with us, maybe turn the subtitles on your TV so that you can tell what's going on.
I think we should. Yeah. I'll have to do that.
Yeah. And that's what we'll be watching if you want to watch along with the show. And we will see you next week.
Bye-bye.